Okay, so where do they actually come from? Those really sparks flying, amazing creative ideas.
Right.
Is it just like some magic talent? Something you're born with, maybe? Or is there
Well,
more to it?
yeah, that pressure to be totally original,
Hmm.
completely out of nowhere. It's huge, isn't it?
It really is. It feels like you have to, I don't know, invent fire every single time you sit down to make something. It can be kind of crushing.
Absolutely. And that feeling, that idea that everything has got to come purely from you, untouched by anyone else, and it's
Mm.
so intimidating, it probably stops more people from even starting than anything else.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a source that just completely challenges that whole idea.
Uh-huh.
It's Austin Kleon's book, the bestseller, Steal Like an Artist, 10 Things Nobody Told You About Being Creative.
Ah, yeah. Great book.
It really is. It started as a talk he gave, and it basically boils down his whole philosophy on creativity into these really practical, sometimes kind of counterintuitive
And
ideas.
he originally wrote them for himself, right? Like
Right.
advice to his younger self.
Exactly. But then he realized, hey, this stuff applies to, well, pretty much anyone trying to get more creative, whether it's in art or just, life and work.
It's such a refreshing take, honestly. A real antidote to all that vague, sometimes unhelpful advice you usually hear about creativity.
Totally. Like instead of just waiting for some muse to show up.
Right, or trying to pull ideas out of thin air.
Hmm?
Cleon gives you actual strategies, things you can do based on, like, looking around and practicing.
And that's exactly what we want to do in this deep dive. We're going to unpack these 10 core ideas from the book. I
Careful.
want to really get into what he means by that title, Steal Like an Artist, because it sounds a bit edgy, right?
It definitely catches your attention.
And most importantly, figure out how these ideas can actually help you listening right now unlock your own creative side, whatever that looks like for you.
Sounds like a plan. It should be fun, starting with that title itself. It's designed to make you think, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And that kicks off the very first core idea. One, steal like an artist.
Okay, so first things first. Let's get this straight because it's easy to misunderstand.
Yeah, good point.
Cleon is really clear. This is not about plagiarism. It's not about passing off someone else's work as your own. That's just lazy, dishonest.
Right. That's just theft, period.
Exactly. What he's talking about is something totally different. It's more fundamental to how creativity has, well, always worked.
He calls it things like collection, research, and I really like this one, reverse engineering.
Yeah, the reverse engineering analogy is perfect. Think about a mechanic, right? They take apart an engine they haven't seen before.
Uh-huh.
They look at every piece, how it connects, how the whole system functions. They learn by taking apart something that already works.
That's the kind of stealing he means. Studying the blueprint, not just copying the paint job.
And the whole reason this approach works, the bedrock of this idea, is Cleon's point that basically nothing is original.
Which sounds a little depressing at first, maybe.
It can, yeah. But actually, it's incredibly freeing. He points out, like Jonathan Lithium, the writer, did,
Mm.
that when something strikes us as super original,
Yeah.
it's usually just because we, the audience, don't know the influences. We don't recognize the sources the creator drew on.
Right. Litham said something like 9 times out of 10, original just means the references are hidden or unknown.
Exactly.
Mm.
And this idea goes way back. Even, Ecclesiastes in the Bible, there is nothing new under the sun.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so if you really get that, if you accept that you don't have to invent everything from scratch,
Right.
then that huge pressure to be totally unique just kind of evaporates.
Yeah. You can stop staring at the blank page or the empty screen or whatever, feeling paralyzed because you need some totally unprecedented idea.
Right. You can actually embrace influence openly, joyfully even.
Embracing influence, I like that. Seeing yourself as part of a chain, a tradition, not just some isolated genius. Totally. And there's some great quotes about this. Andre Gide said, everything that needs to be said has already been said. But since no one was listening, everything must be said again.
Huh. That's brilliant. And that other one, William Ralph Inge.
Oh, yeah. What is originality? Undetected plagiarism. Again, it sounds cynical, but it's more about observing how ideas build on each other.
It's not about cheating. It's about iteration,
Yeah.
evolution.
Precisely. Creativity isn't usually this big bang of something totally new.
Mm.
It's more like evolution. Building on what came before, Kleon calls it the genealogy of ideas.
Genealogy, like a family tree for ideas.
Exactly. Every new idea is basically a mashup or a remix of stuff that already exists.
He uses that cool visual from art class, right? The two parallel lines.
Yeah, you draw two lines, 1+1. Most people see two lines.
But there's the space between them, too, the negative space.
That's the three. The combination, the interaction between the lines creates something extra, something new. So 1+1 equals 3.
That makes sense. It's like genetics, isn't it?
Totally. You get stuff from both your parents, their DNA gets mixed.
But you end up as a unique person, a remix, bigger or at least different than just the sum of the parts.
And your creative work is the same. It's your unique remix, born from combining your chosen influences in your specific way.
And this is the cool part. You get to choose your influences, unlike your actual parents.
Right. You
Yeah.
curate them. You pick your teachers, your friends, the music, the books, the art, the conversations. All of it. Goethe said, "We are shaped and fashioned by what we love."
That's powerful. And Jay-Z talked about that too, didn't he? About picking creative ancestors.
Yeah, deliberately picking ancestors who would inspire the world we were going to make for ourselves. It's an active thing. You're shaping the input.
Which brings us to the artist as a collector, but not just any collector.
Right, not a hoarder,
Yeah.
a selective collector. You'll just grab everything.
Yeah.
You only collect the things you really, truly love, things that genuinely resonate with you.
Speak to your soul, as he puts it.
Exactly. Yeah. And this ties into that simple advice Kleon got from his mom.
Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out,
Moms know best.
don't they? Your creative output can only be as good, as interesting as the stuff you're feeding your brain. He compares it to that theory about your income being like the average of your 5 closest friends.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
Well, your idea income, your creativity, it works kind of the same way. It depends on the quality of the stuff you surround yourself with.
So your job is basically to be a really good filter. Collect the good stuff, good ideas, cool images, inspiring music, great stories.
The more quality ingredients you gather, the better the stew you can cook up later when you start remixing. Jim Jarmusch, the filmmaker, he had a fantastic quote on this.
What did he say?
Something like, "Steal from anywhere that resonates. Devour old films, new films, music, books, paintings, poems, dreams, random conversations. Select only things to steal from that speak directly to your soul."
Speak directly to your soul. That's the key part. Again, it's not just intellectual.
No. It's emotional, it's aesthetic, it's about really paying attention to what lights you up and grabbing that.
Okay, but there's so much stuff out there. How do you even start studying influences without getting totally lost?
That's where his climb your own family tree idea comes in. It's a really practical way to handle it.
Okay, how does that work?
Instead of trying to, like, learn the entire history of painting or whatever, pick one artist, one thinker, one creator you absolutely love.
You just want to start?
Yeah. And really dive deep. Study everything about them, their work, their life, who they were influenced by. Then, find 3 people that person loved.
Okay. So you follow the trail back.
Exactly. Find 3 people they loved and study them. Then repeat. Go back another generation.
That makes it way more manageable. It builds this personal lineage for you.
Right. And it connects to what Marcel Duchamp said. "I don't believe in art. I believe in artists." Focusing on the people makes it feel more human, less overwhelming. You feel like you're part of this ongoing conversation.
You're less alone in your studio, maybe?
Totally. And practically speaking, how do you actually catch all these influences as you find them?
Yeah, like where do you put them?
You got to keep collecting. Always have something to capture ideas. Kleon mentions David Hockney getting his jackets tailored to fit sketchbooks.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Or Arthur Russell having shirts with 2 pockets for score sheets. Point is, be ready to grab inspiration whenever it strikes.
And keep a swipe file, right? That's a classic.
Absolutely. A physical folder, a digital note, Pinterest, Evernote, whatever works for you. Just a dedicated place to stash anything cool you find. Quotes, images, ideas, headlines, snippets of stuff.
Mark Twain had a good line about that, didn't he? Something about taking what's neglected.
Yeah. It is better to take what does not belong to you than to let it lie around neglected. He wasn't talking about literal theft, but about grabbing those resonant bits floating around.
And the key isn't just hoarding them in the file.
No. You got to look at it. Review it. Let the ideas bump into each other. That's where new combinations start to happen. Your collection becomes a source itself.
So it all comes back to honoring the influence, really digging in, not just like shallow copying. That's the difference between good theft and bad theft.
Exactly. He lays it out clearly. Good theft involves honor, study, stealing from many, crediting, though transformation is key, transforming, and remixing.
And bad theft.
That's degrading the source, just skimming the surface, stealing from only one person, plagiarizing, just imitating without understanding, and simply ripping off.
One takes work and respect, the other is just lazy.
Precisely. Good theft is about understanding the mechanics, like that mechanic we talked about, and then using that understanding, plus your unique mix of other influences, to build something new.
It's like apprenticeship, but with the whole history of creative work as your potential mentors.
A powerful way to learn and grow.
Okay, so we're stealing like artists, we're remixing. Does that mean we need to like go on a 5-year silent retreat first to figure out who we really are before we start?
Thankfully, no.
Hmm.
That brings us right to the second big idea, which tackles that exact problem.
Which is two, don't wait until you know who you are to get started.
This is such a huge hurdle for so many people. That feeling of needing to find your voice, your unique style, your whole identity package before you dare make anything public.
Yeah, the who am I question feels like it needs an answer first. Kleon had that image, right, of the person looking across the big gap.
Yeah, between what we are now and what we want to be. That future, fully formed, creative self.
Yeah.
And the gap looks terrifyingly wide.
But he just flips that completely.
Totally flips it. He says, make things, know thyself. You don't figure yourself out and then make stuff.
You figure yourself out by making stuff.
Exactly. Through the process, in the act of doing the work.
Yeah.
His advice is super direct. You are ready, start making stuff. Now.
Wow. Okay. That ties right into imposter syndrome, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That feeling like you're a fraud, just faking it, that you're
Yeah.
going to get found out any minute.
So common.
Especially, Kleon notes, among creative folks and educated people who are often very aware of how much they don't know.
So what's his take on it? Just ignore it.
His perspective is really liberating. He basically says, none of us really know. Ask anyone doing truly creative work, and they'll often admit they don't fully understand where the good ideas come from.
They just show up and do the work.
They just show up every day. The knowing, the confidence, it comes later. Or maybe it never fully arrives, and that's okay.
Which leads to that phrase, fake it till you make it. It gets a bad rap sometimes.
It does, but Kleon gives it a helpful twist. He sees two ways to read it.
Okay, what are they?
The first is the usual one. Pretend to be confident or successful until you are. Dress for the job you want, act the part.
Right.
But the second way is the really useful one for creativity. Pretend to be making something until you actually are making something.
So just start doing the actions.
Yes. Go through the motions of being a writer or a painter or whatever it is you want to be. The identity will actually follow the action, not the other way around.
Maybe connects it to drama, right? Like Shakespeare, all the world's a stage.
Exactly. If you want to be a creator, set your stage. Your workspace is your stage.
Yeah.
Your clothes might be your costume signaling it's work time. Your tools are your props.
Pens, keyboard, guitar, whatever.
Right. And your script. That's just the time you block out to actually do the work.
Yeah.
By setting all that up and just doing it, you start to inhabit the role, even if you feel like a phony inside.
He mentions that great story from Patti Smith's book, Just Kids, about her and Mapplethorpe.
Oh yeah, fantastic anecdote. When they were young and broke in New York, they literally pretended to be artists. They'd walk around Washington Square Park, dress the part, carrying empty portfolios.
Just acting like artists.
Yeah, and Patti Smith said something like, you start out as a phony and become real. They learned by doing, by living the aspiration till it became true.
So how do you start making something if you feel completely lost? Kleon has a really concrete answer.
He does. Start copying.
Copying, but we just said plagiarism is bad.
Right, but remember the distinction. This isn't plagiarism. This is practice, like learning. Yoji Yamamoto, the designer, said it brilliantly. Start copying what you love. Copy, 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 copy. At the end of the copy, you will find yourself.
Wow. At the end of the copy, you will find yourself.
It's how we learn almost everything. You copy letters to learn the alphabet. Musicians copy scales and licks. Painters traditionally copied masterworks to understand technique.
The Beatles started as a cover band, right?
Exactly. Paul McCartney talked about spending hours trying to sound exactly like Buddy Holly. It's how they learned songwriting and performing. Goethe said, those who do not want to imitate anything produce nothing. It's a necessary step.
Okay, so if you're going to copy, who or what should you copy?
You copy your heroes, the people whose work just blows you away, who inspire you, whose path you admire. Nick Lowe even suggested literally rewriting your hero's entire song catalog.
Whoa, that's intense.
It is. But the point is deep immersion. And crucially, like we said before, copy from many heroes, not just one. Remember Wilson Misner. Copying one is plagiarism. Copying many is research.
Or Gary Panter being even blunter. Rip off one person, you're the next them. Rip off 100, they call you original.
Exactly. That mix is key. But it's also not just about copying the surface style.
What do you mean?
You need to try and copy the thinking behind the style. How do they see the world? How did they approach problems? What choices did they make? You want to internalize their way of looking, not just mimic the final product.
Otherwise, it's just a superficial knockoff. Doesn't have any depth.
Right. And this is where you start finding your own voice in the gap between imitation and what Kleon calls emulation.
Imitation versus emulation. What's the difference?
Imitation is just copying. Emulation is when that copying practice goes further, it starts to evolve, and it breaks into something that's actually yours.
Okay, how does that happen?
Think about Kobe Bryant. He famously studied Michael Jordan's moves obsessively.
Yeah, you could see it.
But Kobe had a different body, different strengths. So when he tried to execute Jordan's moves exactly, he couldn't. He had to adapt them slightly.
And those adaptations became his signature moves.
Precisely. Or think about late-night hosts. Carson influenced Letterman. Letterman heavily influenced Conan. Each started by sort of emulating the guy before him.
But they ended up totally different.
Exactly. Conan said something profound. It is our failure to become our perceived ideal that ultimately defines us and makes us unique.
Wow. So the failure to be a perfect copy is where your own originality comes from.
That's the idea. Look at where you fall short when you try to copy your heroes. What feels awkward? What do you change instinctively? That difference isn't a mistake, it's you emerging.
So you should amplify that difference.
Yeah.
Lean into it.
Yes, that's how you transform their work into your work. You're not just copying anymore, you're adding something only you can add.
Yeah.
That's how you flatter your heroes, by taking their ideas somewhere new.
So bottom line, don't wait to figure yourself out. Start making. Start copying. Your unique self will show up in the process.
It really shifts the focus from waiting to doing. It's incredibly empowering.
Okay, so we're influenced. We're starting by copying, even if we feel like frauds. But what specifically should we aim to make, especially early on? That brings us to number 3. 3, write the book you want to read.
Or, make the art you want to see, play the music you want to hear, build the product you want to use.
Right. Do the work you wish existed in the world.
This really pushes back against that standard advice. Write what you know.
Yeah, which Kleon says can sometimes lead to really, boring work if all you know is your own little world.
Exactly. His alternative is much more exciting. Write what you like. Make the stuff you're a fan of.
We get into creative fields because we love the stuff other people make, right? We're fans first.
Totally. We make art because we like art. We play music because we love listening. Kleon even suggests that pretty much all fiction is kind of like fan fiction.
Huh. That's an interesting take. A response to stories we already love.
Yeah, building on them, remixing them. Brian Eno talked about making music for that exact reason. He wanted to create something that does not exist that I would like to listen to.
He was making the music he wanted to hear, filling a gap he perceived.
By putting existing sounds together in new ways that suggested something he craved.
And that feeling we all get, like, oh man, I wish there was a sequel to that movie, or I wonder what that band would sound like now. That can be fuel.
Huge creative fuel. Kleon mentions Bradford Cox from the band Deer Hunter. Apparently, when he was waiting for new albums from bands he loved, he'd record his own fake versions of what he imagined they might sound like.
No way! And those became actual songs.
Often, yeah. They turned into Deer Hunter songs.
Yeah.
He was creating the music he wished existed.
So instead of just passively wishing someone else would make the thing you want,
You step up and make it yourself.
Kleon throws out some great questions to spark ideas for you, the listener.
Like, what did your favorite artists miss? What cool thing didn't they make? What could be done better? What would your heroes make if they were working today? What if your favorite creators collaborated with you leading the project? What would that look like?
Whoa. Those are great prompts.
The answer, the driving principle is go make that thing, whatever it is.
The manifesto is pretty clear, isn't it? Draw the art you want to see, start the business you want to run,
Play the music you want to hear, write the books you want to read, build the products you want to use.
do the work you want to see done, period.
And you're the perfect person to do it because your specific taste, your unique combination of influences from point one, means you're craving something that maybe nobody else is thinking of in quite the same way.
And once you make that one thing, it sparks another idea.
And another. That's Kleon's image of one idea leading to two, then to infinity. It builds momentum.
It's about moving from just being a consumer of culture to being an active participant, adding your voice,
Exactly. You're helping to make the world a little bit more like the world you wish existed. A pretty cool motivation.
Definitely. Okay, so we've got our influences, we're starting, we know what we want to make the stuff we love. Now, how do we actually, like, physically do the work? This brings us to point 4, getting tactile. Yeah. 4, use your hands.
Yeah, this is such an important counterpoint to how much time we spend staring at screens.
Right. Kleon quotes John Cleese saying, ideas don't always come when you're glued to your laptop.
And Kleon really champions using your hands. Linda Berry called them the original digital devices, which I love.
That's good. Before keyboards and touchscreens, our hands were how we interacted, how we made stuff.
And look, computers are amazing tools, obviously. We need them for editing, sharing, connecting, all that. But they can make the actual creation part feel kind of abstract,
Yeah.
disconnected. Stanley Donwood, the artist who does Radiohead's covers, he talked about feeling like there's a sheet of glass between you and the work on a screen.
Yeah, you lose that tactile feeling of really making something.
Plus, just physically sitting hunched over a computer all day, it's not great for your body or your brain.
True. Creative work isn't just mental heavy lifting, it involves your whole self. Think about musicians playing or speakers presenting, they use their bodies.
Bringing your body, your hands back into it is vital. It's not just brain sending signals down. The body sends signals up too. Physically going through the motion, sketching, cutting paper, moving things around can actually trigger new thoughts.
Like going through the motions can kickstart the brain.
Exactly. Edward Tufte, the data viz guy, advocates for doing stuff in the real world. Plant something, take a walk, read a physical book, engage the senses.
Kleon had his own moment with this, didn't he, in college?
Yeah, he said his writing felt stiff and boring when it was all just Times New Roman, double-spaced on a screen. Felt like homework.
But when he started doing projects that were more hands-on, like his newspaper blackout poems,
suddenly it became fun again. The feel of the newsprint, the smell of the marker, it engaged his senses, and he felt the work actually got better. It felt like play, not just output.
So his argument is that computers are great for the end part, editing, publishing.
Right. But maybe not always the best for the initial generating of ideas. It's too easy to hit delete, to self-edit too early. Your inner perfectionist takes over.
Tom Gauld, the cartoonist, said something about sketchbooks feeling full of potential versus computers feeling kind of final.
Yeah, like a sketchbook is wide open, endless possibilities, but the computer screen makes things feel like they're already on a fixed path.
So what's the solution? Ditch computers?
No. It's the analog to digital loop. Kleon actually set up his office with 2 desks.
2 desks?
Yeah. An analog desk, messy, covered in paper, scissors, glue, physical stuff, and a separate clean digital desk with a computer.
Okay, so how does he use them?
Ideas start on the analog side. Scribbling, cutting, pasting, making a mess.
Yeah.
Generating raw material. You can see the process physically.
And paper doesn't crash?
Bonus. Then you move to the digital desk to refine it, execute it, publish it. But if you get stuck...
you go back to the analog desk, back to playing with paper and pens.
Exactly. It's a cycle, flowing back and forth between physical exploration and digital finishing.
So for someone listening, this could mean, what, just keeping a notebook nearby?
Yeah, or printing things out to mark up by hand, using sticky notes for brainstorming, drawing diagrams, just getting up and pacing while you think, anything to get your body involved.
Stepping away from the screen regularly.
It grounds the work, makes it feel more real, and it's a great way to bust through those mental blocks.
Makes sense. Okay, so we're getting our hands duty. But creativity isn't always just about the main thing you're working on, is it? Sometimes the really interesting stuff happens off to the side. Which leads to number 5. 5. Side projects and hobbies are important.
Oh, this is such a good one. This is where the real messing around happens, of pure play. Jessica Heish, the designer, said that's often where the magic actually takes off.
Your creative playground, basically.
Totally. And Kleon talks about productive procrastination.
Sounds like an oxymoron.
Kind of. But it's not about just wasting time online. It means having several projects going at once.
Okay. Why? So when you get stuck or bored with Project A, you can just hop over to Project B or C.
Ah, like giving Project A some breathing room.
Exactly. It changes the scenery in your brain. And often, the solution for Project A will just pop into your head while you're happily distracted by Project B.
Clever. And this relates to being bored. He says boredom is good.
Yeah, which sounds weird in our hyperstimulated world, but he quotes a coworker saying, "When I get busy, I get stupid." Constant busyness can actually shut down creativity.
So boredom creates space for ideas.
It seems to. Those moments when your mind can just wander, doing dishes, folding laundry, a long walk without podcasts, that's when unexpected connections happen. Mara Kalman talks about needing that empty time.
And this principle also includes that idea. Don't throw any of yourself away.
Yes, if you have multiple passions, even if they seem totally unrelated, like you love astrophysics but also knitting.
Keep them both. Don't feel you have to choose just one thing to be serious about. Right. Stephen Tomlinson's idea. Keep all your longings attended to. Nurture all those different parts of yourself.
It reminds me of that Steve Jobs quote about connecting the dots looking backward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't predict how your weird combination of interests, maybe coding and baking or marketing and bird watching, will eventually intersect and create something unique to you. That image, attention, do not leave your longings unattended. It's a great reminder.
Kleon felt this himself, right, with music and writing.
Yeah, he felt he had to give up music to be a real writer. But he felt like something was missing, like phantom limb pain.
And when he went back to playing music,
It didn't take away from his writings. It actually fed it. Fired up different parts of his brain, gave him new ideas, new rhythms. It made him a better writer.
and this isn't just for artists, right? This applies to everyone.
Absolutely. An accountant with a passion for pottery, a software developer who loves gardening. Having that other outlet can make you better at your main gig and just, a more rounded, happier person.
It's also useful to distinguish between a hobby and, like, your main work.
Yeah. Kleon says a hobby is something that gives but doesn't take. It's purely for fun, for restoration, no pressure, no business plan, just joy. He said his band practice felt like church.
A sacred space just for play.
Exactly. And the bottom line here is, don't worry if all your interests don't seem to fit together into some grand, unified theory of you right now.
You just do the stuff you love.
Pretty much. The book had that image. Don't worry about unity. What unifies all of your work is the fact that you made it. Looking back, you'll see the connections.
So, for you listening, what's a side interest, a longing, maybe a forgotten hobby you could give a little time to this week? See what happens.
That cross-pollination can be surprisingly fruitful.
Okay, so you could do all this collect, make, play, totally in private. But the next point is crucial for actually growing and connecting. 6, the secret. Do good work and share it with people.
He calls this the not-so-secret formula. And it sounds so simple, right? Just 2 steps.
Step 1, do good work. Okay, maybe not so simple.
Huh. Right. That's the really hard part. There are no shortcuts. You got to put in the time. You'll probably suck for a while. You'll fail. You just have to keep practicing, keep making things, ideally every day, to get better.
Okay, that's the grind. What's step 2?
Share it with people. Now, this used to be the hard part, needing agents, galleries, publishers, all the gatekeepers.
But now?
Now, technologically, it's simple. Put your stuff on the internet.
Simple to do, maybe, but scary for a lot of people, especially when starting out.
Totally. Once you leave, say, a school environment with its built-in audience, you realize the world is busy.
Yeah.
Stephen Pressfield said, it's not that people are mean or cruel, they're just busy. Nobody's automatically waiting to see your stuff.
Which can feel discouraging. But Kleon flips that too, doesn't he?
He does. He says, in the beginning, obscurity is good. It's actually an advantage
How so?
because there's no pressure. You're free to experiment, to mess up, to try weird things just for fun. Nobody's watching that closely. You can focus on getting better without worrying about critics or your brand or making money.
That freedom disappears later if you get known.
Significantly. So you should enjoy your obscurity. Use it. Use it to practice in public, figure out what you're doing, find your voice.
So how do you share effectively online? What's the formula for the internet?
It's pretty simple too. Step 1, wonder at something. Get genuinely curious about stuff. Step 2, invite others to wonder with you.
Meaning?
Find something that fascinates you, maybe something niche or overlooked. Kleon says, don't talk about apples if everyone else is. Talk about the weird oranges over there and just share your fascination. Your authentic interest is contagious.
And don't keep your process a secret.
Definitely not. Think about Bob Ross or Martha Stewart. They showed exactly how they did things, gave away their secrets, and people loved them for it. We enjoy seeing how things are made.
And sharing your process, sketches, drafts, influences helps you too, right?
Absolutely. It helps you clarify your own thinking, figure out what you actually want to say. It's not just giving away magic, it's showing the work.
So the internet isn't just for finished masterpieces.
No way. It can be an incubator. Share works in progress, little snippets.
Yeah.
Get feedback. Find people who dig what you're doing. Build momentum. The way blogs and social media work, that reverse chronological feed, It kind of pushes you to keep making stuff to share.
A gentle kick in the pants.
Exactly. So learning some basic online skills, website, blog, social media is part of the modern creative toolkit. Find your online tribe who loves the same stuff you do.
But you don't have to share everything, right? He says share your dots, but don't connect them.
Right. You control what you reveal. Share a sketch, a quote you liked, a reading list. You don't have to spill your entire life story or the whole finished project unless you want to. Remember Howard Aiken's line,
Remind me.
don't worry about people stealing your ideas. If your ideas are any good, you'll have to ram them down people's throats. Good work, your unique work, is hard to just copy wholesale.
So sharing is more about connection, feedback, and momentum than just showing off finished stuff.
Precisely. Finding your people, getting better, creating opportunities.
So listener challenge. What's one small dot, maybe a sketch, an idea, a finding you could share online this week? Just put it out there.
That first step is often the biggest hurdle, but it's so important.
Now, historically, being creative often meant moving somewhere specific, right? Like a big city. But Kleon argues that's changed. 7. Geography is no longer our master.
Yeah, this is huge. Kleon himself grew up literally in a cornfield in Ohio. Not exactly a creative hotspot.
But he found his people online.
Exactly. Mentors, collaborators, his audience, they were everywhere, connected digitally. The internet lets you build your own creative world, your own community, no matter where you physically live.
You curate your physical space, sure, your desk, your studio.
Or you can also curate your digital space, connect with inspiring people online,
Oh.
build your own personal scene right where you are. Even Kafka, way before the internet, said you don't need to go anywhere, just sit still and the world will come to you.
The internet just makes that connection way easier.
Exponentially easier. And this also connects to enjoying captivity, those moments when you're forced offline.
Like on a bus or in a waiting room?
Yeah, or deliberately keeping the laptop shut on a flight.
Yeah.
Those disconnected times can be super productive for thinking. If you're prepared, have a notebook, have a book.
Let your mind wander without constant input.
Exactly. Make space for those unexpected connections.
But he also says leave home. So it's not all about staying put.
Right, it's a balance.
Yeah.
Geography might not dictate your community anymore, but place still matters. Travel is important
Why?
because it shakes things up. It makes your brain uncomfortable in a good way. New sights, new routines, it forces you to pay attention differently, makes the familiar look fresh. Jonah Lehrer called distance and difference the secret tonic of creativity.
The insight versus distance graph in the book shows that. Kleon felt it traveling, right?
Yeah, trips to Italy and England gave him new perspectives he brought back to his work.
So choosing where you live is still important, just for different reasons.
Totally. Think about it. Is the weather conducive to staying inside and working sometimes? Like a cold winter or a hot summer?
Mm-hmm.
Are there interesting people around? Not necessarily in your field, just stimulating. Does the place feed you?
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Good food, culture, nature. Whatever nourishes you. Kleon says find a place that feeds you creatively, socially, spiritually, and literally.
So you don't have to suffer in some expensive, noisy hub if you don't want to. You can build your network online, choose a place that suits you, and travel occasionally to get fresh eyes.
It's about designing your whole environment, digital and physical, to support your creative life, consciously.
And building those connections, online or locally, leads right into a really simple but crucial principle, maybe even more vital now. 8. Be nice. The world is a small town.
It sounds almost ridiculously simple, doesn't it? Be nice. But he gives it a whole chapter.
The image just says, here to make friends.
And in today's hyper-connected world, it's not just like good morals, it's incredibly practical advice for anyone trying to navigate a creative field, or any field, really.
Because the internet makes the world feel small.
Very small. He makes a point.
Yeah.
If you talk trash about someone online, they will find out. Google alerts, people forwarding stuff, word gets around fast.
So what's the practical advice for dealing with online stuff?
Ignore the haters. Seriously. The best way to vanquish your enemies on the internet, ignore them. Don't waste your energy engaging.
And focus on the positive.
Yeah. Make friends. How? Say nice things about people and their work. Share stuff you admire. Amplify good vibes. Kurt Vonnegut's advice, you've got to be kind. It pays off.
And a key way to grow is to actively seek out talented people.
Definitely. Stand next to the talent.
Uh.
Questlove said the only people he keeps around are people he can learn from. You absorb things from the people you associate with, online and off.
So find people whose work you admire.
Follow them, see what they're up to, who they learn from. Harold Ramis had that great rule. Find the most talented person in the room, stand next to them, Try to be helpful.
And if you're the most talented person in the room?
Find another room. Always be learning. Push yourself.
Okay, but what about negative emotions? Anger can be motivating, can it?
It can be a powerful fuel, for sure. Kleon tells that story about his wife yelling at him, "Quit picking fights on Twitter and go make something."
Ha! Good advice.
Totally. Henry Rollins channels his intensity into his work. The key is channeling. Use that anger, that frustration in your creative work, not spraying it around online. Andre Torres said it perfectly about software. Complain about the way other people make software by making software.
If something bugs you, make the better version. Use the energy constructively. That rage sign image drives it home.
Exactly. Don't just rant. Create.
And how do you connect with those talented people you admire? Email them constantly.
Kleon suggests something better. Write fan letters, but do it publicly.
How does that work?
Instead of a private message begging for attention, write a blog post about why you admire their work. Dedicate a project to them. Build on their ideas. And give credit. Share it online.
So the goal isn't necessarily to get a reply.
No, the goal is to show genuine appreciation and, more importantly, to generate new work yourself, inspired by them. Hugh MacLeod said, the best way to get approval is to not need it. That validation is for parking image. Perfect.
Don't make stuff just for external validation.
Right, because people might not get it. They might criticize you, ignore you. You have to be okay with that. The trick is to be too busy doing your work to care.
And good work often looks easy, which can be frustrating. People see the result, not the struggle. I could do that.
Yeah, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Exactly. That effort is hidden.
And for those times when the criticism or silence does get to you?
Keep your praise file. Simple but effective. Save the nice emails, the positive comments. When you're having a bad day, take a quick look for a little boost.
But don't dwell on it.
No, just a quick pick-me-up, then back to work.
Wow.
Much healthier than dwelling on rejection.
So kindness, smart networking, channeling anger, managing validation, it's all part of the ecosystem.
Building a positive, supportive environment for yourself.
Okay, this all sounds great, but doing good work, sharing it, being nice, it takes energy, sustained energy. Which leads to the next point, challenging that romantic myth of the chaotic artist. 9, be boring. It's the only way to get work done.
Huh. Yeah, this one flies in the face of the tortured genius stereotype, doesn't it?
Totally. The idea that you have to be wild and crazy and suffering to be creative.
Kleon argues that's mostly counterproductive. Being truly creative takes a lot of energy. And you waste that precious energy on drama, excess, cleaning up messes. Flaubert, the novelist, said it best. Be regular and orderly in your life so that you may be violent and original in your work.
Keep the drama on the page, not in your life.
Exactly. The core message here is simple. Take care of yourself. Basic stuff. Assume you'll be doing this for a while.
Eat well, sleep, exercise, go to the dentist.
Yes. Patti Smith emphasized the dentist. It's about long-term sustainability. Neil Young saying better to burn out than to fade away. But Kleon counters, maybe it's better to burn slow and see your grandkids.
Build a life that can support a long, creative career.
And a huge part of that is managing money. Stay out of debt.
Easier said than done sometimes.
True, but crucial. Learn about money. Live within your means. Save. Resist the constant pressure to consume. Debt creates massive stress, and stress kills creative freedom. Bill Cunningham, the photographer, lived super simply so he'd have freedom. His motto, if you don't take money, they can't tell you what to do.
Financial independence equals artistic independence.
Largely, yes. And for most people starting out, this means keep your day job.
Really? Don't quit your job to follow your dream.
Not necessarily, or at least not right away. A day job gives you money, which reduces pressure. It gives you structure, routine. It connects you to the world outside your creative bubble.
It frees you up to make the art you want to make, not just what you think will sell immediately.
Exactly. And if you can, try to find a day job where you can learn useful stuff. Kleon used his jobs in a library, web design, copywriting. They all fed his creative work later.
Okay, but a day job takes time and energy. That's the downside.
It does. But it also forces a routine. And routine is your friend against inertia. Getting out of the habit of working is deadly. It's so hard to start again because that initial phase feels awful.
So the solution is discipline.
Pretty much. Carve out time for your creative work whenever you can find it. Early mornings, lunch breaks, evenings. Steal the time if you have to. And then stick to it. Work every day.
Every single day, no holidays.
Ideally, yes, even if it's just for 15 minutes. Keep the engine running. It won't always feel inspired. That's okay. Consistency builds momentum. Philip Larkin, the poet who was also a librarian, called it being utterly schizoid, using each role as an escape from the other.
Find a day job that pays the bills but leaves you some mental energy.
Right. And trust the power of slow accumulation. A page a day adds up. Small efforts, compounded over time, build amazing things.
Tools can help with this routine, right? Like a calendar.
Absolutely. Plan your work, set small, concrete goals, and Seinfeld's don't break the chain method is gold.
Mark an X on the calendar every day you do the work.
And soon you hate the idea of breaking that visual chain. It becomes its own motivation.
Kleon also suggests a logbook. Like sailors.
Yeah, not just to track tasks, but Nickerson Baker suggested noting, best thing that happened today. It trains you to notice small positives, which you can mine later for ideas or just encouragement.
Looking for the good details.
And finally, under the Be Boring banner, Kleon adds, marry well.
Whoa, okay. Relationship advice.
It's broader than that, really. It's about your core support system. Who you choose to build a life with is critical for creative work, which can be obsessive and demanding.
You need a partner who gets it, who supports the routine and the focus.
Ideally, yes. Someone who champions you, understands the weird hours or the need for solitude. Tom Waits credited his wife Kathleen Brennan with basically saving him. A good partner keeps you grounded so you can be wild in your work.
Stability at home enables risk-taking in the studio.
That's the idea. A calm harbor lets the ship sail out into storms.
So how can you, listener, inject a bit more boring stability routine, self-care, financial sense into your life to free up creative energy? What small routine could start today?
It's about building that sustainable foundation.
Okay, we've covered a lot. Collect, start, make what you like, use your hands, play with side projects, share, build your world, be nice, be boring. What's the final piece? Number 10 feels almost like a culmination. 10. 10. Creativity is subtraction.
This feels so relevant right now, doesn't it? We're drowning in information, options, choices.
Totally overwhelming sometimes.
Kleon argues that in this age of overload, the key creative skill isn't adding more. It's figuring out what to leave out. It's about focus, concentration. Because limitless possibilities, they're paralyzing.
Too many choices can make you freeze up.
Exactly. And here's the paradox he highlights. Constraints actually bring freedom.
Limitations make you more creative. How?
Because they force you to make choices. Instead of complaining about what you don't have time, money, fancy tools you have to get clever with what you do have right now.
Make do with the time, space, materials available.
Yes. And that forces resourcefulness, problem solving. Think about writing a song with only 3 chords, or painting with only 2 colors, or making a movie on your phone. The limits channel your creativity in unexpected ways.
He uses the Dr. Seuss example, right?
Classic. The Cat in the Hat used only 236 specific words because that was the constraint he was given. And then he won a bet by writing Green Eggs and Ham using only 50 unique words.
Wow, that's intense constraint.
And Jack White talks about this all the time, how having unlimited studio time or gear just kills creativity. Boundaries give you something to push against.
Saul Steinberg, the cartoonist, said we respond to the artist's struggle against limits. What's left out is as important as what's put in.
Exactly. What an artist omits often creates the tension, the focus, the style. And Kleon says this applies to us as people too. Our limitations, the things we can't do, help define who we are.
So instead of seeing your limits, not enough time, tight budget, specific skill gaps as excuses.
Embrace them. See them as the boundaries that will actually shape your unique creative output. Make things because of your constraints, not just in spite of them.
Your limitations aren't bugs, they're features.
Kind of. They force you to innovate in ways you wouldn't if you had infinite resources. They define your unique playing field.
That's a really powerful reframing. Use what you've got right now.
And with all that, the stealing, the working, the constraints, Kleon adds one final essential instruction. And have fun.
Gotta have fun, otherwise what's the point?
Right, the joy, the curiosity that has to be part of the engine.
Wow. Okay, steal like an artist. We've really unpacked these 10 ideas from Austin Kleon. It definitely shifts the view of creativity away from some kind of magic.
Towards something much more grounded.
Yeah.
A set of practices.
Yeah.
Collecting influences, starting before you're ready, making what you love, using your hands.
Keeping side projects alive, sharing your work, building your world, being nice, being boringly consistent, and yeah, finding freedom in limits.
And these aren't just for people who call themselves artists. These ideas are so applicable if you just want to bring more creativity into your job, your hobbies, your everyday life.
Absolutely. You have the power right now to start curating your inputs, make something small, and build from there. You don't need permission or a perfect plan.
We heard Kleon say limitations mean freedom, and that what's left out can be just as important as what's put in.
Which leaves you, the listener, with a final thought to chew on.
How can you look at your own limitations?
Mm-hmm.
Lack of time, money, maybe where you live, skills you think you're missing. How can you see those not as roadblocks?
But as the actual raw materials, the boundaries that could fuel your most unique, most interesting, most you creative work, what could you make because of those limits, not just despite them?